Hello, everyone. Spirit of 420 here, making mistakes as usual, because that is just so damn 420, and that's what I am. As you can see, I'm unshaved because I almost didn't do this show tonight. So, you know, it's just, in the simplest of terms, it's difficult. The life right now is difficult, and I can't deny it. And that coffee is hot and delicious. So I hope everyone, in regards to their life, is doing well. I truly do. I pray for all of you, and I know that each one of you have your own struggles and your own challenges to go through, right? So even though I'm going to tell a tough story tonight, I am going to try to continue to be myself. And what I mean by that is still look at the positive and still understand the positive, but it is definitely the worst moment of my life. I also put in there in the description, I didn't have this in the title because there just wasn't enough room. But what I wanted to start the show off with is blood thicker than water? You know, we we grow up hearing that. Now, for me, not only did I grow up hearing that, but I grew up instituting that with my family, particularly with my boys, right? One of the things that's going on right now, before I get into, you know, that night, is his twin brother is devastated. You know, he's definitely blood. I'm going to come back to it, but I just want to touch on it for a minute because maybe y'all could just send out some prayers and good vibes, whatever it is you prefer to do, his way, because he's beating himself up. He thinks that he somehow failed his brother now, and that's really where the point comes in. I made it so abundantly clear that they would be there for each other after me, because we go on that assumption. We're not going to sit there and tell our kids, yeah, one of you is going to die. You know, that's not how you raise your children. And you raise them, you know, with the belief that A, I'm going to die first, the parent, and B, if they have siblings, these are the people that will be there for you when everybody else deserts you, when people say they won't. Now, before I get into the blood is thicker than water aspect of it, there's a part of me now feeling guilty, right? So he feels guilty. He feels guilty like he failed his brother. And part of that is because I made family so strong to them and made it, you know, I can't tell you how many times I would tell, because they fought like cats and dogs. He's also beating himself up for that, right? By the way, today is number 3's birthday, so it seemed only fitting that this be the day that I tell the story of what happened to Skylar. And how do you say, what's the word I'm looking for here? Oh, my nose is itchy. Excuse me. My wife gave me some ridiculous dabs right before the show. That's all I got to say. I don't cough very often, but she had me coughing. And when I cough, my nose runs because I have this one, the son in question that I'm talking about was having a hard time when I was, well, I'll think about it when they, as far as their age. He was 11, I think, at this time. Pretty sure it was when he was 11. I'll have to go back and look because I posted it on my Facebook, but he threw a line drive ball right at me. And I did not have my glove. It is one of those stories. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I did not have my glove. So I had someone else gave me their glove just to sit here and practice with Forrest. And he was a pitcher, right? This glove, I can't even explain it. There was no firmness left to the leather. So you would open it up and the pocket would fall, right? So like open it up and the pocket would fall. It wouldn't catch the ball. And I literally went like that and it did that and it just went right off the glove. And I mean, dead center, all due my nose was, oh my God, it was hysterical. First of all, it hit me and my nose was just like a fucking fountain turned on. I knew it was broken immediately simply because of the fact that there was so much blood and it wouldn't stop bleeding. Oh my God. And here I am, the fucking parent, and I'm not a small guy. So, I'm one of the bigger dudes and I have, I'm just like trying to get my nose to stop bleeding, but I can't. I mean, it's just like, finally, I did it. I got it good enough. And that's when they took the picture that I ended up posting to Facebook, like just minutes later. Cause we were already at the time where we had our social with us all the time. That's actually when I did Facebook. I don't do Facebook anymore. I found out that Facebook does me. So that's why I quit using it. So he's beating himself up in part, and I feel somewhat to blame because I instilled such a belief of them being there for one another. And as I said, they fought like cats and dogs. And I used to tell them, I used to sit there and say it consistently. Look, man, this is all you're not going to give a shit about this. You are going to get past this time where you fight like this and you will get to a place where, yeah, you're always going to argue because you see things differently. And in fact, in their situation, one's weakness was the other's strength and vice versa. And I said, eventually you're going to get to the point where, you really, all that shit doesn't matter. You'll still argue, but you will not fight like this because you'll understand that it's just a disagreement and it's not the end of the world. Right. And I mean, I said this to them all the time. I also, what I did say, and it sucks because at the same time, yes, you don't plan, but as a father, you don't plan for death. Let me put the last word in that sentence. But as a father, when you're raising your children, particularly when you're talking to your boys about, things between siblings and whatnot, I used to also preface, look, man, you don't want to stay fighting. You don't want to fight because you never know what'll happen. Right. And of course, that's the other side of it. I preach that, and now he's beating himself up because A, it did happen, and B, he's using the fact that I told him to continue to beat himself up more. Like, you said this, Dad, you warned me. And I'm like, it's just, I'm not mocking him. I'm sorry if it came across like that. I apologize. He is in tears. Like every day he breaks down, like most of us who were extremely close to Skylar. I can't even describe it to you. And I'm sure I'm probably going to break down. I tonight's going to be tough. But he feels like he failed him. He feels like he failed his brother. I'm trying very hard to show him, and remind him of the fact that he has two other baby brothers, one now 11 today and the other one 8. I mean, I know it's not the same. I tell him, look, dude, I know it's not the same. One of them is literally half and the other one's even younger. But I was like, it will be a blink of an eye and they're going to be teenagers. And then before you know it, they're going to enter their 20s. And who do you think they're going to be calling on and looking to at that time? Right. And I'm trying to remind him of that because they're young. They do not fill the void right now the way that they don't fill the void the way that I do and the way that other people do, the way that their brother does, these younger kids. And what I mean by that is try to take yourself back to 8 or 11. They cry when it first happened, but then that's it. It's like, it's just, they're in such a video game age that death is literally, to them, it's like, well, sometime he'll be back, right? Like they don't fully understand death the same way we do as an adult to warrant the mourning process that we have. Now, funny enough, and I just know this for a fact because I've studied it, and my mother, my father, blah, blah, blah. The psychology of it is they're going to have to deal with it at some point in their life, and it is going to hit them later on. As they get older, it'll hit them harder and harder when he's not around anymore. And he's still not around. And they, particularly when they will have his twin brother and be like, because I guarantee you this family's not going to ever let him be forgotten. That's just the simple ins and outs of it. We're not going to do, I can't stand the whole concept of if somebody dies, you just, you put them out of your life, you get rid of everything. Now, unfortunately, the house that he was living in, is not owned by them. So we're not going to keep his room. But I mean, if I owned the home and I still had, if I owned this home even, and he had left a room here, then I would probably not touch that room, but it wouldn't be off limits kind of thing. We would go in there and hang out, keep it clean, probably even still allow any family members to use as a guest room because they wouldn't mind, but you got to keep that memory alive. It helps. And I mean that, how do I say, putting out of your head is just not, it's to me personally, it's not an acceptable choice. Right. So I'm trying to bring him, his twin, that is, I'm trying to bring him around to the fact that these, back to the point of what I started out here with, and I'm about to get to blood, the signal water, I promise. But they are going to need him more in the future, particularly in concerns to dealing with Skylar's death. And he needs to be there. He needs to, keep himself together because just like all of us, he's having a hard time keeping his shit together. And I know, I wonder if this is broken. It keeps being a wet spot there, but we'll see. I'll look at it later. He could self-destruct. I mean, any of us could, quite frankly, I think more people are, if they had odds, the odds would be based on the bets, not necessarily based on my current behavior, quite frankly, but the odds would be that I'm gonna crack. But I'm not. I'm not going to crack for him, right? It's just the simple ins and outs. So he doesn't want that. I don't want that. My mother is a cuckoo. That is such perfect timing. You don't understand. She's a crazy ass bird. My mother and I were just talking about it, because she's like, I really don't understand. And And I said, I was like, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be mean. I was like, you really don't. You truly don't understand. Because if I crack, the whole family's done. It's just the simple ins and outs of it. If I fucking lose it and I self-destruct, implode, whatever you want to fucking call it, that's it. The whole family's going to go under. I'm not just the leader, but I'm all of I'm their father. I'm my wife's husband, and not to sound rude, but I've been essentially looking out and taking care of and living with my mother, starting with living with, right? I mean, there was a time when she had a job, but we've been living together and taking care of each other. Let's just put it that way, because even though financially I may take care of her more so than she does me now, but there used to be a time that I got plenty of money from my mother. The reality is we take care of each other, and I'm not just talking about chores around the house. She teaches the kids, so she's their teacher, right? She is one of my best friends, absolutely, and has been pretty much since I was 25. So second half of my life, 50 now. So that's a perfect segue into, is blood thicker than water? The simple answer to that question, by the way, is yes, it is. But here's the convoluted part. Okay. Some blood is water and some water is blood. Because when we say that, just to dissect it, the whole point of that is family is with you through thick and thin, where friends, anybody who's not family, really, right, is not. Well, there's friends that graduate to family, and there's family that get demoted to friends, and then they get demoted to just completely out of my fucking life altogether. And I'll explain that, because if anybody thinks I'm being a dickhead, I've been practicing this concept since I was 22, right? Not only did Lunar Starlight die when I was 22, and I keep telling you 22 is an extremely significant number throughout my entire life, but at 22, I told both of my parents to essentially fuck off, and that I was going to, I didn't want them to contact me anymore. I wasn't going to contact them. I didn't want anything. And with my father, I literally used the word disowning them. I think with my mother, I don't know if I used the word disown or if I just said, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, or you're out of my life. Probably said disown because I said it to my dad. I know. So it is what it is. We'll have a comment here, Princess Buttercup. Hey, I'm just teasing Buttercup. Yeah, I'll hang in there. Thank you. I appreciate that. So blood, water, thicker. Let me give you for instance of to me, blood that's not even worth being water anymore, right? They're not even worth having around anymore. Number one, in living what is essentially I'll call it since this is such a buzzword these days and everybody gets it, a hybrid Stoic lifestyle, right? And I say hybrid because I imagine that some of the early Stoics don't necessarily agree with my sexual decisions, but hey, it is what it is. Regardless, I am trying to be extremely positive, spread positivity, spread happiness, joy, spirituality. For me, that includes God, helping, unconditional love for everybody. And then, there's a certain love that you give to your close family and friends, right? And so growing up, I had an uncle on my father's side, right? And I'm extremely close to both of my parents. But on my father's side, there's my father, his brother, and then there's two sisters, right? So there's three other siblings. On my mother's side, it gets stupid because both of her parents married three times and had kids 5 out of the 6 marriages. So she's got half brothers, step brothers, blah, blah, blah. Half sisters, stepsisters, blah, blah. Tons. And I have a slew of aunts and uncles. And I love all of them. I'm not saying it like that. I was just saying on my father's side, it was much tighter knit. My grandparents on that side of the family did not divorce. They were married until death. So after my son died, let me, I'm sorry, before I talk about that. When I started this Spirit of 420 thing, right? Back in April, right around May, I text a lot of my family who I consider to be, close family members that I care about their opinions, right? If I didn't give a fuck about your opinion, then I'm not even going to bother reaching out to you. But I reached out to my uncle, to his son, my cousin, right? And quite frankly, even, obviously reached out to my father. I already was to the point where I wasn't talking to my sisters, nor was I talking to my father's sisters. I think I've already talked about it before, but on that side of the family, those women stink. Just all of them, except for my stepmother. May she rest in peace. So I reached out to, and by the way, the woman married to my uncle, the one I reached out to, she's not so bad either. She's not one of the family though. She doesn't carry the last name. But nonetheless, I reached out. I was like, hey, I would really appreciate it if you check this out. I would love to hear your feedback. It's not a requirement by any means. I even said that in the text. I was like, it's not a requirement by any means, but I would love it. It'd be great. I would really appreciate your feedback on what I'm doing. I got a text back, relative, like I think, within a couple hours. I mean, he is like pushing 80. So this man is not the fastest texter, right? But he was like, yeah, I'll look at it and I'll give you some feedback. That was May. So I end up hearing nothing, and then Skylar is killed. And I get a phone call from him. And I did not bring it up right away. Don't get me wrong. I really didn't. We talked. I wish I'd looked, or I wish I'd kept it so I knew how long we talked. But I'd say we probably talked for 25, 30 minutes. It was not a short conversation, right? And the things that he said were nice in the beginning. And then, it came up. I was like, I have to tell you, okay. And I was like, mean no disrespect, but it kind of hurts that I asked you to do something you did not look at all. And then when my son dies, that's the time to do it. See, my family on my father's side has a real skewed idea of what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. They think that when something like this happens, that it's absolutely appropriate for people who are, who have an issue or haven't talked to one another, that's the time to reach out. Now, in some degrees, they're correct. Okay. They are. I'm not saying that. You want to give your condolences. And as much as I say I don't judge, I judge these people. I will not sit here and say that I don't. I judge them, and I'm guilty of it. Because in my world, I still wanted to hear from you. That's great. But then when I present it to you, this is where someone that really cares about you would have done differently versus someone who you're just not part of their life. And I'm only reaching out to you because your fucking son died. Right? But when I presented it to him, well, those just aren't the kind of videos that I watch. I was like, how would you know? You've never watched, you just admitted, like in the conversation, you just admitted you've never watched one. Been 5 fucking months. More than 5 months. Right. And this is actually part of the point that I have made for years about, I'm 50. Now, to 20-year-olds, I'm an old fucking dude. Like, I'm an old fucking dude, right? And when I talk shit sexually, then I'm a perverted dude. I'm a dirty old dude. But I just told you, this guy's pushing 80. He's probably, if I'm doing the math correctly, I want to say he's 78, possibly 79, because I believe he's 77, possibly 78, because I believe he's 4 years older than my father. No, he's 74. So yeah, he's either 78 or 79, because my father's 74. Time flies, man. So anyway, my whole point is, this guy is, he's about the same age difference, funny enough, that I am over the twins, about 28 years, right? And I have told those twins for years, I'm like, I'm not meaning this with any disrespect to you boys. But no matter how old you get, you're going to be nearly 30 years younger than me. And I'm always going to look at you as fucking kids. It doesn't matter. I think Grumpy Old Men was one of my favorites that really did that when Burgess Meredith is talking to Jack Lemmon, and Burgess plays Jack's father, right, in the film, if you haven't seen it, and it's a fucking must. That is an absolute, one of the greatest films of family love, just all of it. Getting old, young, it's all there. And extremely well written. But he's like, and these dudes are like, Jack is 64 or 65, and Burgess is like in his 80s, like he's getting, or he might even be in his early 90s or something like that. And he's like, "You're just a kid, Johnny, just a kid." And it's exactly the way that it is. And I told him, like, even though you're going to be young and you'll still be a kid to me, I will respect you. And I do. I listen to my boys. They give me advice. I learn from my boys. I know that they're men. They're now experiencing life and creating new schools of thought, if you will, that they come back to me with, right? But they're still always going to be kids to me. So I know that's the truth with my uncle, right? So I'm like, I told him, I was like, you really have no idea. You're clearly prejudging it already because you think it's a type of video that it is not. He's like, I'm not into those documentary. Raise your hand if this is a documentary. He doesn't even know what a documentary is. Anyway. So quite frankly, I told him, I was like, look, man, I appreciate your condolences, but just know that to me, it's very clear that we stopped being family a long time ago, and to only reach out on a rare occasion, like when my father's in the hospital or when my son is dead, because he didn't reach out when my other son got arrested, he didn't reach out when I was fired, like, just keep to yourself, man. I don't need that shit. You're about as fake as it can get, in my opinion. You're playing a role because you think you have a duty to the family to call me up. It's more offensive to call me up when you're not always in there. You didn't show up for the memorial. And I knew you were, I knew you weren't going to, right? This literally, the call was afterwards. We're desperately hurting for money. This dude is well off and retired. They send a fucking poem. They don't send any donations or donate to it, to the fundraisers. I mean, you're just like, dude, what the fuck? Why reach out now and try to act like you really do care. It's selfish. It's selfish. And what I mean by that is it's more about his, what's the word? Absolution, being absolving himself. Is that right? It's him absolving himself of any guilty feelings, quite frankly. And I know that now, but see, the family, they have a real way of never admitting their wrongdoing, but this is the same jackass and his brother, my father, who's not a jackass, raise us on the belief that, number one, actions over words, right? And your actions speak louder than your words. That's the whole thing that we were taught. And we were also taught, that if you say something, mean it. That's that, and that they go hand in hand, right? Actions speak louder than words. And if you say you're going to do something, do it. And I was like, you did neither, Rennie. Like you didn't do what you say you're going to do. So it tells me that you don't give a fuck. And then you're going to try to act like it's because you don't have interest or it shouldn't matter right now, because what should matter is that my son is passed. No, you fucking jackass. That's you being guilty, feeling guilty. And so let me reach out and give condolences. Just fucking keep to yourself. I don't want anybody in my life anymore that is not consistently there saying positive things and positive reinforcement, support, smoking their fucking dope with me. Please smoke your dope with me. Send me dope. That'll help me. Then I don't have to fucking spend the type of money. And we're desperate for money. If you don't fucking believe me, I'm about to have to do a fucking fundraiser video and try to raise the rest of the funds so that I don't completely fucking go under. That'll be in another video. So, is blood thicker than water? Yes, it is. But there's other, and I'll give you a great example. My best friend, we're actually going to do the blood brother thing, and I think I talked about this before. We're going to do it. We just we need to do it when I can. Probably I want to do it like right at the beginning of one of my breaks, so hopefully it'll heal for the most part before I have to go back on air. But the scar will be there. You'll be able to see it. But my best friend and I are going to be blood brothers. We've known each other all of about a year and a half right now, maybe close to 2 years. Known of each other, I would say definitely known of each other for 2 years. Known each other for probably a little over a year, a little over a year and a half, somewhere in that area. In fact, it was last Christmas. Was the first Christmas that we were actually friends, when he was still living across the street, and I gave him this RC car. He has ended up pimping that thing out, like up and down. He fucking still drives a show. He loves that. But he was totally blown away, right? Because we had really connected over the last like 4 or 5 months up until Christmas. And so he was like, and he was like, made him feel bad. I think I pulled a Leslie Nope on him. But this guy will do anything for the family. He does anything for this family. Same as I do anything for him, by the way. I'm not a taker. I am a giver. And I should note, because it would be unfair not to. My uncle didn't always seem like such a piece of shit to me. Because when I was trying to think of the year, it was just give the brain a second. I want to say this was 12 years ago. No, this was 9 years ago. 9 years ago, 2013. Yeah, 2013. I went through a really bad. I've had 3 real bad firings in my life where they truly were unwarranted, and I'm not going to get into all that. Those are great stories for another time when you want to beat your meat to a firing story, right? But nonetheless, I'd gone through a hard time, and I just want to point out he paid off what was left. I think it was about, I'm not saying it was small or large or anything. It was a significant amount of money. I think it was like, I want to say $5,200, and paid off what was left of my car payment, because we were just having a really hard time. And I only had, it wasn't even, I think maybe only 13 or 14 payments left or something like that. I can't remember, because it was a 08. So I know I was pretty close to paying it off. So he paid it off for me, right? I don't forget that, and I'm not negating that. So the same guy, it actually adds to it. Same guy that can do that. The same guy that like spent a lot of time with me as a kid. You couldn't bring yourself to even go to my channel and see what was up like that. See, I mean, does anybody get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not asking you to subscribe. That's not what I asked. I wasn't asking for follows or for him to share it or any of that other cheesy shit. This is an uncle who meant a lot to me, still does in many ways, but meant a great deal to me my whole life. And I wanted his opinion as a 50-year-old man on what I was doing, due to the implications. What does implication? The implications, of my actions. Like, what do you see it doing? Right. I mean, I really wanted that, and to not do it. And then when questioned about it, when confronted, to somehow just blow it off and take zero responsibility, the same way that this family fucking does and everything they do. Yeah, that's it. Why have someone like that in your life? Why would you? You get what you put out. I know some people are like, yeah, but dude, look at all the happiness you get out and your son's dead. That's a different story. With huge gain comes huge loss, and then comes huge gain, huge loss. It is what it is. And that's something that, how do I say? You have to deal with that. The people in my life still love me. I'm still making it. I'm not going under by God's grace. Things keep happening that just in the nick of time here and there. And I believe that's going to continue that way all the way up until I get back on my feet, which I will. Right. But it takes time. So to talk about that day, it was funny. So October 22nd is the day in question, worst moment. I actually did I don't believe in coincidences, right? So anybody who knows me knows that. Funny enough, I almost always inevitably stream on odd days of the week, right? So it's 3 days a week and on the odds. Well, I just got over one big change in my life because I got fired on October 3rd. And I had missed a show or two. I can't remember what it was exactly or why, but because I went on yeah, that's what it was. I missed a show and I was like, I got to go on. I have to keep up, keep doing it and keep myself positive, because that's part of what keeps me going is doing this. It sounds fucked up, I know, but it's, well, maybe not fucked up, but funny. It's true. But I did a show on the 22nd. That's the whole point. And I went on time, unlike tonight and unlike some other times recently. And please forgive me. I'm doing the best. I'm trying to get back to a schedule. Life is just discombobulated right now. But I went on the 22nd, and I did a Flick Dick episode. I can't even remember what it was. I'm just curious now. Let's see. Oh, yep. That was actually a one I was really proud of because it was 4 different films that I was investigating that night, right? And I had a really good time. And I go on at 7:20. So I went on and did the show, had a great time, never once really feeling anything. And then his roommate called. His roommate is like a 5th son to me. I say that he's like another son at this point because there's so many now that call me Pops, but he was the first, not blood son of mine. And that's another good example, by the way, of blood and thicker and water being thin. But he calls, and it's about, I want to say about 9:25, somewhere in there. And he's like, "Hey, I wouldn't normally do this, but Sky went to the garage to get a charger and a battery, and he hasn't gotten back yet. And his phone's been sitting in the same place for a while now. And then he goes, and his phone, or said, I guess he said that his phone was sitting in one place for a while, and now it's at the county jail. That's what he said. So, being a father, like he did find my iPhone. For those of you, I'm should have said that. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's it's basically a GPS locator of the phone, right? And you can choose to share your location with certain people. And they were extremely close. Like I said, they were like brothers, and they lived together. And in fact, they were working on a car. And all I can tell you is that Joe, that's him. I think he already kind of knew what was happening, but he didn't want to admit it at the time. And I've come to believe that now, because the details I kept having to re-ask, and he wasn't getting them exactly right, and that was causing concern. But my initial thought is that he ran from the cops and got arrested for eluding police on a motorcycle, because even though he had the motorcycle and my son was like so legit in many ways, he did not have a license. It's a long story, but in Colorado, to get a motorcycle license, you have to be sponsored by someone else, and he just hadn't gotten it done yet, right? Funny enough, he was insured. That's crazy, right? Insurance, he was covered, but he just didn't have technically the motorcycle license for Colorado. So my initial thought, God, that would have been so great. But my initial thought was he got himself in trouble, right? And then, and of course, as a father, I immediately text him. I try to call him. There's no answer. And funny enough, he didn't share his location with me, and we're extremely close. I think it was an accident. If he was here, I think he would even say it was an accident, Dad, because I thought I had everybody on there, because he would share with my wife, his stepmother, who considers a mom, his grandmother, right? So we immediately look at it and we see where it is. And it does say, county jail. So then I start calling, just like Joe had already been doing. I start calling and trying to get in touch with a detective or anybody and be like, what's he been arrested for? Well, I can't remember exactly how it hit, but the fact that we couldn't get in touch with him, and I finally had gotten from Joe that he left well before 5 o'clock. I remember this started with me and Joe at around 9:25, right? So now we're talking about what originally in the conversation Joe made seem like just a couple hours was now 4.5, close to 5 hours of time had gone by. And it just hit me. I was looking at it and my stomach dropped. And I just knew it just happened again because it still doesn't feel real. So I immediately did a search. And I found the article. They'd already posted an article. So the initial way that I found out was reading an article of a motorcyclist, a solo motorcyclist dies in Colorado Springs. And I read where it was. And that's how it really started to become real. Because I knew where he went to. And I knew where his home was. And that was the route. And I didn't want to believe it. I text my best friend. I'm like, dude, I'm really worried about my son. I text in the article, and just like anybody's natural response, they're like, that's not him. That's not him. You know, they rode together. So, you know, his initial thing was he's he told me how good of a rider Skylar was, how incredibly natural he was. It's like, that can't be him. And then at 10:28, the phone rings and I look at it and it says, Colorado Springs coroner office. And I answered the phone. And that was the worst absolute moment of my life. Because the guy says, it's Skylar Renfro, your son. And I flipped out. I couldn't stop screaming. You hear something like that and you're like, this, you know, it can't be. But it is. And here I am. You know, he's physically not with me. But he will forever be with me in spirit. And that's not just a cliche because of my name. He will forever be with me in my heart. And then, you know, when I say the worst moment, from that moment to here is still the worst fucking moment of my life. You don't know what it is to have to be the one to call his brother he was asleep. His brother was asleep. He beats himself up for that. I had to call all these people. I had to be the one. It's just that simple. He wasn't married. He had a girlfriend, but he wasn't married. And he had, you know, what 22-year-old honestly, unless I was going to make a joke and say unless they're Republicans, but what 22-year-old honestly has last will and you know, they don't have a will. They don't have they don't even have insurance. They don't have any of that stuff in place. And I don't begrudge my son one bit. I even literally told him he just dropped a job that had benefits for a job that paid him ridiculously better, but did not have benefits. And I even said, dude, take the job. You got to go with that, man. That's like, first of all, the experience was better. The situation was better. It was closer to home. Obviously, had I had any foresight, I wouldn't, because it was only 45 days later, and it's not because of. I don't want to say that, because the owner over there he's been in tears. He's beaten himself up. Literally, that dude, you have no idea, but Skylar touched lives like few do. And that's just my boys. That's the way they are, because I taught them to really care. I taught them to put themselves out there and really love this world, right? And his boss is beating himself up, going, if I had never given him a key, right? If I hadn't given him a key, then he wouldn't have driven there that day. Because the whole reality is, because he had a key, he drove over there. It was fate. There's so much that points to fate. And I've already talked about a lot of that before, so I'm not gonna repeat all of it right now for you. Go back and watch any of the streams, because I talk about it on a little bit, but any of the streams, starting with his memorial stream. In the simplest of terms, there has been sign after sign after sign after sign after sign. I do not believe in coincidences, as it is. But even when you look, let's say you believe in coincidences, even people who do believe, excuse me, that coffee, that last, I was going to say that last swallow really got me. That's what she said. I lost my throat of train. Oh, what do we got? Oh, thank you. I missed all of this. I apologize. I wasn't paying attention to. Went fuzzy. Did it fix itself, or is it still fuzzy? Here, I'll just do this. Probably too late, but that should fix it. Yep. Thank you, Boo. Damn it if I didn't. I've been trying to get better about falling off the train. Oh, coincidences. There it is. Even people who believe in coincidences, when I tell them all of what has happened and all the coincidences and what I know as signs, they're like, wow, man, that is like, two people already have told me, they're like, it's literally altering their view of whether God is real or not. How about that? So when you ask, when someone says, okay, as positive as you are and you believe what you get is what you put out, and what you got was your son's death. No, that's not what I got. That's what happened. And it was part of the process. It was part of the whole plan. And that's not just me saying it to feel better about it. I've had repeated signs. Number one, that he's passed on and at peace and happy. And number two, that this was all part of it. It was, if you will, ordained, because we all are playing this role to understand this life, right? And when you get that you're a piece of God down here to be experiencing it, then whatever. I'm not going to go on that rant. That's another day. But I will tell you this, in my opinion, that right there, it's not even my opinion, it's fact. There's already been connections made, friends, people who are now considered part of this family that would not have happened had Sky not died on the highway that day. Number one. Number two, it is already changing the perspective of people's lives, and people are trying to live better, happier, positive lives the same way Sky did. Because when I talk to these folks, who a lot of them are Sky's friends, but they knew me. A lot of them met me. There's a group of at Toyota that only a select few had actually met me, but I've met all of them now. But some of his closer friends over the years, and most of his closer friends, particularly all the ones up until he was 20, I met because he was living at home. And it was 19 actually. No, 20. 19. That's when he moved out. Yep. Anywho, was it so oh dear goodness gracious. No, I'm not frozen. I'm just thinking. Sometimes it sucks to have that stoner brain. All you can do. Sometimes that's exactly what I do. Is literally when I can't remember, I'm like, maybe if I get high again, I'll remember what I was talking about. I know I should probably do note cards, but fuck that. That's boring. Then you don't get to see me struggle. Right? It's all part of it. It's coming back. There's already those two big positives, right? Other people are now opening their eyes to another way of life. And let me just say, living this way of life, this is the one thing that I'll tell people. I used to make fun. I used to pick on people when they would thank God for things, right? Particularly people in entertainment, sports, even just people who had really great lives in general, like other people at work that did really well. I would always make fun of them, either in my head or even out loud to other folks, about the whole thanking God, right? And I can't explain when or how exactly it happened. But at some point, I started going, there's a lot of people with really good lives and they thank God. And I don't see people with shitty lives. And don't get me wrong, I see people with shitty lives thanking God, but I can't say it's somehow different. Like, because the people that have shitty lives that aren't thanking God, it's amazing how unhappy they are, right? And I noticed that anybody who was and took away the monetary success of it, the monetary success, okay? And I was like, okay, what am I seeing? These people who were thanking God for everything were just happier. Now, that's not why I made the decision with God. That's literally another 2,500 stories that will come way down the road. But funny enough, it had to do with, by no coincidence, the only other person in my life that went on this journey with me. And this started in 2016 with Skylar out of the family. And as I have repeatedly told people, due to the experiments, the facts that we found and experiences, we removed the question mark of God for us. I'm not saying you have to believe it. That's fine. Don't. That's not what this conversation is about. But by no coincidence, it was him that I did this with, right? And after that happened, again, and because it had been years since I had done that little deduction about the happiness and thanking God, and I think the only difference was, I'd come back to believing in God, so I wasn't making fun of those people anymore. I just, and funny enough, I just kind of looked at it like, okay, I get it, but I didn't really get it. And what I mean by that is then when I removed the question mark and then we moved out here in May of 2018, it really, really hit home. Funny enough, I felt like it was because we were just simply put more than a mile closer to God now, right? But when we moved out here, like we really got much, much closer to God, particularly myself and I know Skylar as well, my wife, my mother. Skylar's twin is having some issues. And I don't think Joe's much of a God thing, but I think that's changing, quite honestly. Much for God, but I think that is changing. But yeah, my life exponentially, and this is where people don't get it. If I were to judge it, and we had like how do you say, slashes, right? Like we put, this is the good side, this is the bad side, right? So you got all these slashes. Well, this really, if you look at it, Lucas has written about this, and if you really think about it, all the different scriptures of any kind, whether you're talking about Judaism, Christianity, Muslim, even if you read Taoism and things like that, evil is concentrated, right? Like it's just a little bit of evil compared to a whole lot of good. And if you don't quite understand what I mean, think of it this way. In the Star Wars universe, right, there's two Sith versus like 20,000 Jedi. Okay. So, I mean, literally there's, or at least 10,000. I know that there was at least 10,000 Jedi. What do we got here? Did I miss something? My hot photo here. Thanks. So, evil, is it just takes a little bit of evil in comparison to a whole lot of good, and that's the same way, in looking at the slashes. Once I really truly let go and let God and started living to the best of my ability what I felt was a righteous life, where I'm helping other people, I'm trying my best not to judge, I'm spreading happiness and joy, each and every day, more so to the best of my ability, continually. So, look at me now. All these slashes have built up. My life has exponentially gotten better. And there are slashes over here, but when they happen, they're fewer, they're less, but they're more detrimental. And things really do, happen in threes, if you will. Because I got fired. My son died, and then I lost the funding for the new company. I lost the investment. Doesn't mean the company is not happening, and doesn't mean we're not looking for another investor, and we have some other things going on. That's not my point. But it was really, it was three big things, right? One right after the other that have forever changed my life. And were massive changes to my life, which is also a lot of stress, by the way, because, the top five is, what is it? So marriage, death. Well, I think divorce is technically more stressful than marriage, but it's in the top five. But birth, marriage, death, divorce, moving, job, and those are all, I know it's more than 5. It's like a total of 10, and they kind of change depending on which decade you're reading about. But you're still talking about some of the most stressful things. I lost someone, I lost my job, I'm starting a new company. Those are big changes, and they cause massive stress. I'm sure I've gotten like a ton of new what's the word, grays since since the onslaught of this. But we'll see soon enough, right? But if you'll notice, one thing it hasn't done, it hasn't stopped me. I still went on tonight. I was late. I still got that out of me and shared it, and that, I felt like that was important. If it mattered, the night, everybody ended up coming over here, just to wrap that story up. Everybody came over here that was close family and friends, which included my best buddy, as well as Joe and the other guy that lives with them. That's also like another son, who Sky and Joe had just driven across the country to go and come back. So everybody met over here, and we stayed over here until late at night, kind of in disbelief. But there's a lot more to it, and I'll talk more on future episodes. That was the worst moment. But I will tell you this: there's something really messed up about the investigation, and I don't think we're ever going to know exactly what did happen. But what is very evident is that there was no suffering. It was quick, and he made his journey very fast, right? It wasn't, and I truly thank God for that. And I mean that. He didn't end up in a hospital as some vegetable, that's eating through a tube. He didn't end up with a broken back that he can never walk again. And it's like, that's just like any of the other possibilities would have been horrendous on that man, and, yes, he died, and he'll always be a kid to me, but he was a man. He had proven his manhood, just like his brother has. When we're young, we have a hard time believing in ourselves. So I know his brother will pull through. I'll be there with him. But a part of this is that he already had a hard time believing in himself, and now this happened. So I can tell you that my mission, as much as I want to sit around and I don't, I'm being facetious, sit on my pity pot. I do not. Number one, I can't. I've got another son that I've got to keep a close eye on, or else he is going to self-implode, right? If I don't make sure that he stays with therapy and other things, which thank God he was already in, but he's got to really use these things at this time more than ever. And he will. I know he will. But I have 2 more. I have another, let's just call it a baker's dozen easily, that call me pops and are going to be in my life. One thing cool is we have started every Sunday night. We're going to have a game night. Not a gay night. Don't mishear. Actually, it's really called movie night. And we may play games from time to time. But the whole point is that it's a certain group of people that now know each other because of Sky, and we're going to have this night every for as long as I'm here in the Springs, and I think these 2 folks will be here for quite a long time. But as long as I'm alive, I will be doing this no matter where. But I already told somebody not too long ago, like, how could I ever move now? I don't have it. I don't foresee, and there we go. And I absolutely pray that I don't go through this again. Therefore, I believe Skylar will be the only one that I lose. But yeah, I'm not going to leave the Springs now. It's not going to happen. So, and I will continue to spread happiness and joy. And I mean, I can't tell you enough. Like, the people that are coming over to that every Sunday, right? We're going to get together at 4 by 4:20. We're getting high on time. But the reality is those people only know each other now because this one of them is the very woman that tried to save Sky's life. She is now part of this family. And that is not by mistake. Like, she is just like us, and she's blown away by it. She's like, I feel more at home and more like family with you than anywhere else except maybe at my real home back where she's originally from, which is not Colorado, right? That's not a mistake. I told you she was like Sky's soul sister. She was a little bit older, but you know, two dogs, hiking, marijuana, same belief system. And I mean, my belief system is pretty awkward. Don't get me wrong. I have all this happiness and joy, but I also have some, I call it spirituality is what I believe, because I don't cater to any one specific religion. I've read them all. And it's clearly that, it's clearly obvious to me that, and I'll end it with this as far as this thought, that if you are God and you are Almighty, you're going to send messengers throughout time and language, depending on when that group of people were ready to hear the message. All is about timing. That's not always going to be the same for every group of people on the planet, right? So they're sent throughout time, space, whatever you want to call it, at the right moment to hear it. And anybody says that if you believe in space, how can you believe in God? I love this because people are either God or they're science Big Bang, right? They're one or the other. If I was God and I wanted to do something pretty cool, wouldn't I go, Big Bang? Let's see what happens in 15 million years, 15 billion years, excuse me. Whatever the fuck you crazy people believe it. When I say that, I'm saying, hey, I don't believe in it the way that science tells it. I don't believe in it the way that religion tells it. I believe in it the way that I have put it together with my own eyes and hands, right? And if you ever want to know about that, ask me. That's another day. That's another story. To blaze or not to blaze, there is no question. There is only to get high, to get by, to be in the sky, to join sky. Either way. I love you, son. I will never stop talking about him. I will continue to talk about him, talk about other things, and continue to spread the same message that I'm spreading right now. And that is, each and every person is special. Each and every person has a purpose. 6 degrees of separation is real. That's the reason that the butterfly effect takes place, because each one of us touch each other by only 6 jumps. And when you truly start to understand that, you know that your actions then have consequences, even the little ones. The little things do matter. And that doesn't mean you sweat them. You don't, there is a lot of truth that don't sweat the small stuff, but the little things do matter. And each and every one, you have to kind of learn which ones are the ones to sweat and which ones are the ones not to sweat. And what I mean by that, you don't sweat the small stuff, but you definitely take that into consideration, that the small things do matter. So you try a little bit harder to be a little bit nicer, to be a little bit kinder, be a little more supportive, a little more helpful to strangers, right? Because really we're not strangers. Just remember that. I love each and every one of you. Like I said, you're special, you're awesome, you're incredible. Have a wonderful evening. I will be back on the 17th, which is Thursday, with a flick dick investigation, because tomorrow I'm going to see Black Panther. Yeah, I'm actually excited about that one. Hopefully it's better than the last movie that I went to go see, starting with the word black, because Black Adam was black shit, if you ask me. Although somebody said they disagree with me. So, which you have a right to. But as far as my investigation came up, it came up shitty. So, have a wonderful evening. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And stay lifted. We'll see you on the next episode. Oh, I missed this, Boo. Sorry. Perfect timing. 9 is the number of finality in numerology. So, of course, it would ring while I'm reading that. Hey, I really appreciate you tuning in. And still you need to reach out to me. I know that probably seems weird, but I would love to have you as a guest on the show. So, just reach out and let me know when you want to do it, or if you're actually into it, because I will be here. Probably won't have time to respond back because I'm getting ready to hit the banner. Or no, if I can get over here. But I'll see your response even if I close out the show. I still see your response. I won't immediately go on live, but I think I gave you my email. So reach out, man. We'll have you on the show and you can share a story or two if I don't stutter it up and totally fuck it up. I love all you guys, all you folks, male and female guys, is something I say for both. See you. Peace.
You can't have my phone number unless we running up the digits. Let me meditate, I just need a couple minutes. Tryna low ball me, my cojones to the big ass. Bitch, I get high. I ain't looking at the clock still.